There is no spoon. The Matrix wasn't just a sci-fi action movie, it was a revolution in filmmaking, a cultural earthquake that rewired how audiences saw cinema itself. Behind the slick trench coats, gravity-defying kicks, and philosophical questions lay a set riddled with near-fatal accidents, studio interference, and actor rebellions. What audiences never saw was the chaos. A star forced to act through spinal surgery pain, million-dollar shots nearly scrapped, and stunt training so brutal it left cast members broken. Today, we're uncovering 17 weird facts about The Matrix that pull back the curtain on the madness. Stick around for the bonus fact because it reveals a shocking secret the Wachowskis never wanted you to know. Let's dive in. Keanu Reeves filmed with a broken neck. Keanu Reeves wasn't just Neo, he was Neo with a broken body. Just before filming, Reeves underwent spinal surgery for 2 fused vertebrae. The recovery left him with screws in his neck and limited mobility. Instead of delaying production, he pushed through months of stunt training. The result? Reeves couldn't kick during early rehearsals. Fight choreographer Yuen Woo-ping quietly rewrote sequences to minimize high kicks, focusing instead on punches and dodges. Audiences thought Neo's fighting style was intentional. It wasn't. It was necessity. Reeves described the experience as living in fear of paralysis, but he never once asked for relief. Not a stunt double, not a delay. The crew watched in awe as he endured pain so sharp he sometimes collapsed off camera. What audiences saw was a chosen hero mastering martial arts. What they didn't see was an actor hiding pain so intense it nearly ended his career. The bullet time scene nearly bankrupted the film. The iconic bullet time sequence, where Neo dodges bullets in slow motion, almost didn't exist. Warner Brothers balked at the cost, nearly $750,000 for a single shot. The Wachowskis fought tooth and nail, insisting it was essential. The effect required a rig of over 120 still cameras snapping in a choreographed circle. Each frame had to be stitched together digitally, a process so complex it pushed the limits of 1990s technology. Executives demanded cheaper alternatives. The Wachowskis refused, threatening to walk if the effect was cut. In the end, the studio caved, but with a warning: you blow this, you lose the movie. When audiences gasped at Neo bending backward to dodge bullets, Warner Brothers finally understood. That single shot didn't just define The Matrix, it redefined action cinema. It wasn't just an effect, it was a gamble that could have bankrupted the film before it began. The cast trained like Olympic athletes. The actors didn't just rehearse fights. They endured a 4-month boot camp, led by Yuen Woo-ping, who famously told the producers he'd only take the job if he had total control. They agreed, and regretted it immediately. Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Hugo Weaving trained 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. The regimen included martial arts, wire work, and conditioning so brutal that Moss later admitted she cried after training sessions. Fishburne called it the hardest physical thing I've ever done, while Weaving tore his hip and had to undergo surgery mid-shoot. Still, no stunt doubles were allowed for the main fight scenes. This wasn't just training, it was war preparation. By the time cameras rolled, the actors weren't pretending. They were fighters who had earned every punch and kick on screen. Audiences thought they were watching carefully choreographed actors. They were watching warriors forged in pain. The sunglasses were custom-made and cursed. The slick minimalist sunglasses weren't just fashion. They were a logistical nightmare. Designer Richard Walker handcrafted each pair, tailoring them to the actors' faces so they wouldn't slip during stunts. But the glasses constantly broke. Wire rigs snapped them clean off, shards scratched faces. Crew members joked the sunglasses were cursed. At one point, Moss sliced her cheek during a hallway stunt when her glasses shattered mid-spin. Despite the danger, the Wachowskis insisted on authenticity, no straps, no CGI fixes. If a pair broke, Walker had to rush to craft another by hand. The sunglasses weren't just accessories. They became symbols of power, fragile, dangerous, and entirely impractical, much like the world of The Matrix itself. Neo's mouth-sealing scene was traumatic to film. One of the film's most unsettling moments, when Neo's mouth seals shut, wasn't just disturbing for audiences. It terrified Keanu Reeves. The effect combined prosthetics, CGI, and practical molding. Reeves had to wear a latex piece glued over his lips while lying flat on a table. Breathing was possible only through his nose. Filming lasted hours. Reeves later admitted he felt trapped, panicked, and nearly ripped the prosthetic off mid-shoot. Crew members recalled him trembling once the scene wrapped. It wasn't acting, one said. He was genuinely terrified. On screen, it looks like Neo's body rebelling against truth. Behind the scenes, it was Reeves confronting claustrophobic terror. Not just a special effect, a genuine nightmare etched forever on film. Carrie-Anne Moss sprained her ankle and kept quiet. Carrie-Anne Moss wasn't just Trinity, she was Trinity with a sprained ankle. During early training, she landed wrong on a wire stunt and twisted her ankle badly. Instead of reporting the injury, she hid it from everyone, terrified that producers would replace her with another actress. For weeks, Moss pushed through agonizing pain. She performed high kicks, flips, and wall runs while quietly limping off set between takes. Even her co-stars didn't realize the extent of her injury until much later. In interviews years later, Moss admitted, "I didn't want anyone to think I couldn't do it. I was afraid they'd fire me." That fear gave her scenes an extra edge. Her grimaces weren't always acting. What audiences saw was Trinity moving with precision and power. What they didn't see was an actress defying pain and fear of being discarded by Hollywood's ruthless system, not weakness. Resilience. Hugo Weaving nearly lost Agent Smith. Hugo Weaving wasn't Warner Bros.' first choice. Executives initially wanted a big-name American villain to square off against Keanu Reeves. Rumors swirled around Val Kilmer, Gary Oldman, even Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Wachowskis fought for Weaving, insisting his cold precision was perfect. But mid-training, Weaving tore his hip. Doctors recommended immediate surgery, meaning months of recovery. The studio panicked, considering recasting Agent Smith entirely. Weaving begged for another chance, limping through physiotherapy while continuing dialogue rehearsals from a chair. By the time cameras rolled, Weaving had healed enough to perform fight scenes with limited strain. Yuan Wu-Ping adjusted choreography to hide his injury. The studio nearly erased him. Instead, Weaving's icy, restrained performance, partly shaped by physical limitations, made Agent Smith one of cinema's greatest villains, not the loudest villain, the quietest, and the deadliest. The rooftop helicopter scene almost killed the crew. The rooftop rescue scene, where Neo saves Morpheus as a helicopter smashes into a skyscraper, wasn't just high stakes on screen. It was nearly fatal behind the camera. The scene used a real helicopter flying dangerously low through Sydney's financial district. During one take, the helicopter's tail rotor clipped a rooftop scaffold, sending debris tumbling. Crew members screamed as fragments nearly struck the camera team below. Australian aviation authorities were furious, nearly shutting the production down. Only after Warner Bros. Agreed to stricter safety measures was filming allowed to continue. On screen, it's Neo defying physics. Behind the scenes, it was a crew flirting with disaster, one rotor blade away from tragedy. The Wachowskis gambled with reality and nearly paid the ultimate price. The Green Code was actually a cookbook. The iconic green matrix code cascading down screens wasn't computer language. It was sushi recipes. Designer Simon Whiteley revealed years later that he scanned his wife's Japanese cookbooks into digital form, then altered the symbols into falling streams of neon green characters. Without her cookbooks, Whiteley joked, there is no Matrix. Audiences saw mysterious programming code. In reality, they were staring at recipes for tempura and sushi rolls disguised as cyberpunk art, not algorithms, not hacking formulas, but dinner menus masquerading as destiny. It's a bizarre twist that underscores the film's central theme. Nothing is what it seems. Even the Matrix itself is built on illusion. Will Smith turned down Neo for a wild reason. Before Keanu Reeves, Neo was offered to Will Smith. At the height of his Men in Black fame, Smith was Hollywood's most bankable star. But when the Wachowskis pitched The Matrix, he couldn't grasp their vision. "They pitched me bullet time," Smith recalled. "I didn't get it. I said no." Instead, he made Wild Wild West, one of the decade's biggest flops. Smith later admitted Reeves was the better choice. Keanu was perfect. If I had done it, I would have messed it up. What audiences didn't know was that had Smith accepted, the entire tone of The Matrix would have shifted, less haunted, less philosophical, more comedic. Sometimes the greatest role of your life is the one you turn down. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because the next facts reveal injuries, betrayals, and a moment so intense it left the entire cast in tears. The subway fight took 10 days to shoot. The brutal subway fight between Neo and Agent Smith wasn't a quick action beat, it was a war. The sequence, filled with wire-fu, practical explosions, and intricate choreography, took 10 exhausting days to film. Every punch, every kick, every camera angle was meticulously planned. But the physical toll was immense. Keanu Reeves, still recovering from spinal surgery, spent hours rehearsing each stunt, while Hugo Weaving fought through his hip injury. Both actors emerged bruised and battered after each day. The set itself added danger. Exploding walls and collapsing tiles often misfired, sending shrapnel dangerously close to cast and crew. At one point, Reeves narrowly avoided serious injury when a timed charge detonated too soon. On screen, audiences saw Neo's first real test of will. Behind the scenes, it was two injured actors enduring punishment for nearly 2 weeks straight, determined to make a fight scene that felt truly epic. Not just a battle, a trial by fire. Lawrence Fishburne nearly walked off set. Lawrence Fishburne wasn't just Morpheus, he was the anchor of the film. But midway through shooting, he nearly quit. The issue? Endless takes. The Wachowskis, known for perfectionism, often demanded 20 to 30 takes for a single shot. Fishburne, exhausted and frustrated, clashed with the directors. Crew members recall him shouting, "We've done it already! Move on!" Tensions rose during the dojo fight between Neo and Morpheus. Fishburne's patience snapped after hours of repetition. Rumors swirled that Warner Brothers feared losing him. But after a tense private meeting, the Wachowskis convinced him to stay, promising more trust in his instincts. The result was electric. Fishburne's performance carried a weight of authority and simmering frustration, partly drawn from his real battles on set. Not just Morpheus teaching Neo, Fishburne teaching the filmmakers. The lobby shootout used real gunfire effects. The lobby shootout, one of the most famous sequences in cinema, was a nightmare for the crew. Every wall, pillar, and marble slab was wired with squibs, small explosive charges designed to mimic bullet impacts. The sheer number was staggering. Over 10,000 squibs were detonated across multiple takes. The noise was deafening, the debris choking. Crew members wore ear protection, the actors didn't. Carrie Ann Moss and Keanu Reeves performed amidst clouds of plaster dust and flying debris, their lines drowned by the chaos. Safety officers repeatedly warned the production about proximity risks. Moss later admitted she left set with her ears ringing for days. Audiences saw balletic carnage, a ballet of bullets. What they didn't know was how close it came to overwhelming the cast and crew with noise, dust, and danger, not CGI chaos. Real destruction. The rain in the final fight nearly broke everything. The climactic showdown between Neo and Smith takes place in a rainstorm. But those weren't digital drops. They were torrents of water dumped by industrial sprinklers, pounding actors, set pieces, and equipment. Each rain day meant freezing conditions. The water quickly soaked costumes, adding 20 extra pounds of weight to Reeves's trench coat. Hugo Weaving's glasses fogged up, making it nearly impossible for him to see. Electrical equipment constantly shorted out, forcing halts in production. Reeves later said the rain felt like tiny bullets. Crew members remembered shivering actors huddled under heat lamps between takes. The scene that feels sleek and mythic on screen was, in reality, a miserable, freezing ordeal. The Wachowskis demanded realism, and got it at the expense of their cast's comfort. Not just water, punishment. Warner Brothers tried to cut the philosophy. While The Matrix dazzled with action, its deeper themes of simulation, choice, and control nearly didn't survive. Warner Brothers executives pushed to strip away most of the philosophy, arguing audiences wouldn't get it. The Wachowskis fought fiercely, insisting the blend of martial arts, cyberpunk visuals, and philosophy was the entire point. They snuck references to Baudrillard's simulacra and simulation, Gnostic mythology, and postmodern theory into dialogue and set design. Executives rolled their eyes, but eventually relented after test screenings revealed audiences were hooked by the deeper questions. What looked like a studio-backed blockbuster was, in truth, a philosophical Trojan horse. Audiences thought they were watching bullet-dodging spectacle. They were being challenged to question reality itself, not just action, revelation. The phones were real and became obsessions. The flip phones used by the rebels weren't futuristic props. They were real devices, the Nokia 8110, nicknamed the banana phone. Nokia collaborated with the production to modify the model with a dramatic spring-loaded slide, creating the iconic snap-open effect. Audiences went wild. After the film's release, demand for the phone skyrocketed. Nokia rushed a limited edition Matrix phone to market, which sold out instantly. Collectors still pay thousands for working models today. But the phones weren't just cool gadgets. They symbolized freedom, control, and the thin line between connection and surveillance. Every time Neo answered, it wasn't just a call, it was a choice, not just a prop, a cultural phenomenon disguised as tech. The actors read philosophy before shooting. Before stepping onto set, the Wachowskis gave each actor a reading list, not of scripts, but philosophy texts. Works included Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation, Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and essays on Zen Buddhism. Keanu Reeves spent weeks studying the material, filling notebooks with handwritten questions about reality, choice, and fate. Lawrence Fishburne later said these readings shaped how he delivered Morpheus's lines, imbuing them with weight beyond ordinary dialogue. Even Hugo Weaving studied the texts, building Agent Smith's icy logic around the idea of a system that refuses contradiction. Audiences thought they were hearing clever sci-fi lines. In reality, they were listening to actors channeling centuries of philosophy. Not just lines on a page, ideas weaponized for cinema. The red pill wasn't red at all. The most famous prop in The Matrix, the red pill, wasn't actually red. In reality, the capsule was clear, filled with dyed liquid that only looked crimson under carefully controlled lighting. The Wachowskis insisted on this illusion because ordinary red pills appeared dull and lifeless on camera. But there's a stranger twist. The pill scenes were filmed in front of mirrors. To avoid showing cameras, the crew had to build elaborate rigs, hiding the camera inside Morpheus's mirrored glasses. Each reflection was a sleight of hand, an optical trick to sell the illusion. Even stranger? In 1999, the red pill became a cultural symbol of awakening, rebellion, and truth. But on set, it was nothing more than a tinted liquid prop, fragile and easily ruined under hot lights. Crew members kept dozens on hand in case they melted. Not a pill, not even a choice. Just an illusion that became a metaphor for an entire generation.